Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 65. Today we're joined by my new pal, who has a mutual love of Cheech and Chong.
Oh, yeah.
Bruce Ankeny. Thank you for joining us, Bruce.
My pleasure.
As we were warming up for this, just kind of getting to know each other for a second, the songs were coming out from the classic Cheech and Chong discography.
Who would have ever thought that Cheech and Chong had some worthwhile music that was hung around since the 70s?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot that I'm not aware of, but I just remember my dad showing me these clips as a kid, and they stuck with me. There's some funny stuff in there. That's for sure. Well, so when I was a teenager, that's how I discovered all of the great comedy from that era. Like, forgive me if I'm wrong, Monty Python.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Isn't that similar era? That stuff was like revolutionary to me. Like, that was shockingly good.
A lot of stuff they can't get by with anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Some of the greatest movies, they can't even, they'd never be able to put out.
Yeah.
Or especially Blazing Saddles.
Oh gosh. I can't imagine. I can't imagine, but it's good that it existed, and the pendulum will probably swing back to more stuff being culturally allowed. Right? Who knows?
Yeah. People are
taking
taking stuff too serious.
Yeah, they take themselves too seriously, and they take stuff too seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was introduced to your work through Doug. Doug Linker and I were chatting the other day, and he says, "You ever seen this Bruce guy's work? You should pull him up on Instagram, Bruce Ankeny." And so I'm looking him up on online, and you up online since you're here. I guess I have to address you. But and I was looking at your work, and I was like, just blown away by the amount of character and the story that you're telling with these figures. Like there was a homeless guy. Grabbing cans, and Doug was explaining to me as I was looking at it, it's like, yeah, these brands are all like, you could literally see the labels on each of the cans, and this statue couldn't have been much more than, I don't know, how tall was that?
Oh, he's here, I'll grab him.
My goodness. That is awesome.
Items in the picture may appear closer than they actually are, or bigger than they actually are.
Right.
It's only like 7 inches tall. The
yeah.
And
that is amazing. Look at that. Oh.
So we got horned chili. That's from Minnesota.
Huh.
But this is a Canadian rat. Did you know that there's like Canadian geese and Canadian.
Yeah.
This is a Canadian rat. Just crawl here.
Not.
I'm in Minnesota, so it doesn't take them long to get down here. This is a local grocery store. Juba's Super Value. So it's all, and on the front that's a Ham's beer.
Wow.
Which is Minnesota. So it's very hometown, home state oriented.
Yep. And so where are you from?
Blue Earth, Minnesota.
Blue Earth.
It's a beautiful.
It's a creative name.
Just as beautiful as it sounds.
Is it?
Well, if you could see it, it's got 4 feet of snow all over it right now.
Yeah, I understand that. We've had quite a bit here in Michigan too. Right now we're looking at, probably at least 5 or 6 inches. But
okay, so you are in Michigan.
Yes.
Why did you think you were from Canada?
Because I'm friends with Doug.
You know what? That guy, he puts a kind of a curse on everybody. All you got to do is hang around him a little bit, and pretty soon you're saying A. And
I know. Yeah.
You
It's true.
Canada got named, didn't you?
No.
Well, back when the dignitaries got together way back when and decided the name that they needed a name for their country, they threw one every
Uh-huh.
letter of the alphabet in a bucket. And so the one guy would pull out the letter and it said C, A. Another guy was writing it down. And A, B, A. I mean, that's it. Canada.
Oh man, that makes a lot of sense. All the A's in there. Yeah. Well, my heritage on my dad's side, they're French Canadian, so we're not too far from Detroit. So from Canada, being near Detroit, and so I think there's definitely not the same accent, but there's an over enunciation. It's a little different than the Minnesota accent. I think not everyone has the Minnesota accent, but
You got to be
there's something to it.
to have a Minnesota accent.
Yeah, exactly.
I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I think so too.
the northern. I'm way southern Minnesota. I'm just about in Iowa.
Okay. Okay.
So if you get on
Yep.
Interstate 90 and head from you'd be heading west. You get halfway through Minnesota and you're here, right where the Jolly Green Giant stands.
Okay. Got it.
We're the home
All
of the
right.
Jolly Green Giant.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Is that where Green Giant vegetables comes from?
Yeah.
Like the canned goods?
We grow
All
sweet
right.
corn and peas and that
That's
get
cool.
canned here in Blue Earth. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
the Green Giant, the Valley of the Jolly Green Giant.
All right. The Valley of the Jolly Green Giant.
Everybody take
Yep.
information and just go, huh. So
Yeah, we're off to a swimming start. We've got lots of discussion on vegetables and antique comedy shows
yeah.
but we'll get to carving. Calm down, folks.
Eventually,
Yeah. Well, I've just kind of given up on the fact that it's going to be about carving because while the people I'm interviewing are mostly carvers, it's like, I mean, it doesn't have to be carved. I mean, who's going to sit there and talk just about carving and be glued to that topic the whole time? It's like, that'd be horrible.
yeah, I'm not that good at. I mean, if I do a video on carving, and I've done some, I got a YouTube channel that I do some wood videos on. Usually, I just like to put some music on in the background, and I sit and carve, and I don't say much. So
Yeah,
and people that know
I
me
like that.
believe because I am kind of a talker, but I was in the furniture business for many, many years, so I knew how to talk to people. So, but I'm happily retired from that.
All right. So you were in sales, or were you in like distribute? What aspect of it?
We owned a furniture store.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Furniture store,
That's cool.
coffee shop, which you would love. We made
Yeah.
espresso and all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, so we had
Oh man.
it was called
Speaking
the
of
230 Fix.
The 230 Fix. That's
The
dope.
address is 230 South Main.
All right. That's cool.
Took me
That's
to
cool.
figure that out.
How long did you have your coffee shop furniture store?
Well, is this going to be boring? The history of the whole building. My grandparents
I'm
built
curious.
the building in 1946,
Wow.
and it was a bowling alley and a roller skating rink. And so that's what when I grew up in a bowling alley, basically, and a roller rink, and it had a cafe in it. So
How fun.
that's what I did from youth all the way up until I graduated from high school, and then at that point I went to work for my dad, and we had the bowling alley until 1982, and we sold it and bought a Radio Shack franchise. So I ran a Radio Shack along with the furniture store. Radio Shack was gone 25 years ago now. They kind of went under. But we've made a good living on that corner. Our whole family did for quite a number of years. And so here I am now, retired, and I'm sitting out in my shop and carving all the time.
How about that? Were you carving on furniture, or were you building furniture at any point, or how did
No,
carving
no,
come into it?
just a retail store.
Huh. So totally separate. So was the Radio Shack, this is a silly question, but was the Radio Shack where the furniture store was? And then it turned into a furniture store
Yeah,
from
a chunk
there?
of it. We kind of divided
Yeah.
some of the rooms up, and
Okay.
so where we sold mattresses over on that
Hmm.
side of the store was also the Radio
Yeah.
Shack. So
Okay. Okay.
worked out well. It was a good combination.
That's cool. So you did that so basically that building has been in your life the entirety of your life, or most of it, right?
That was the hardest part about retiring, is that we sold the building. It was
Mm.
our family's from the day it was built in 1946.
Wow.
But I can drive by there now and I say I never have to shovel that sidewalk again. So
That is
good
nice.
with it.
Yeah. No more salt, no more shoveling. Yep. Yeah, that is true. That is the downside of a physical building, is the maintenance. There's so much into
Oh,
it. People don't think about that.
that was a great big building with a flat roof in Minnesota, not the
Yeah.
world.
Right.
A
Yeah.
lot of head.
Yeah, and that's right. Yeah, the leaks and snow melts and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Our coffee shop locally has that problem, constantly dripping. We get coffee, and sometimes you'll have a drop of rainwater fall into your cup, and
they're kind of missing the boat there. They
yeah,
throw coffee grounds up on the roof. Have a special rain drip coffee.
That's a good idea. I never thought about that.
Come up with some for it. The aqua.
Sky coffee.
I was going to say
Blue sky coffee. How about
aquifer.
what was it?
Wouldn't work because that comes from
Blue Sky Coffee Company.
there. You go.
Well, if you still have an interest in the coffee business, I think we could probably do something with that. Blue Sky Coffee Company.
I
What's that?
like drinking coffee.
Yeah, as do I. Today I've got a decaf, but don't judge me because there's a little bit of caffeine in it. I put some caffeinated beans.
See, I don't have a fancy mug like that though. That's I hear you're famous for mugs.
Well, my mom is. This is her deal. I'm just letting her sell her mugs. I don't take anything from it. But she's a very skilled. She's really gotten good at making these mugs and just making things out of pottery.
Yeah, that's very cool looking. Mine are just boring.
Yeah. You make things with pottery?
No. My coffee cups are just boring.
Oh, right. Right. So, yeah, I think she's still making them. So if people keep putting in orders, I'm sure she'll keep making them for you guys. So that's pretty cool. But so you come to carving when? When does that become an interest of yours?
I went to Blue Earth used to have a fabulous carving club. It was the Blue Earth Royal Chiselers. And in 1982, they did some kind of a show at the school, and I went to it and looked at it, and I fell in love with a hillbilly chess set that one of the members had carved, and it was a Harold Enlow pattern.
Oh, cool.
And I said, man, I got to try this. So they kind of, took me under their wing at the club, and in 1982, I joined the Blue Earth Royal Chiselers, and I was the youngest member.
Wow.
And we dissolved the club probably 2 years ago now, and I was still the youngest member.
No way.
So nobody in this area took on carving after I did. So yeah,
wow.
Carving for 40 years.
Oh,
Almost.
That's amazing.
Now.
That's amazing. Yeah, right. Incredible. So when you started carving, was it inspired by Harold stuff, by these kind of really amazing caricaturized forms. Is that what got you
Yeah,
going into it?
he
Then?
did a lot of hillbilly carvings and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And a lot of the carvers in our club were doing cowboys and that kind of stuff. But so many people
Right.
were doing cowboys, I thought, God, I want to try something different than that. So I do caricatures, but not.
Yep.
Here's an example. This is just a guy in
Oh,
one
that's
of
so
our
cool.
old Blue Earth Bucks Letterman's jackets.
That is so cool.
So it's just I like doing just figures of whatever I can think of. I've done a lot of hippies. That's one of
Yeah.
the deals was hippies, and I did a
Mm-hmm.
lot of Santa Clauses over the years. Used to carve 65 Santa Clauses a year of the same
Oh wow.
one. I don't
Wow.
do that anymore. That's just that's too hard on me.
What were you doing with them? Were you selling them or?
Oh yeah, I had the same people that bought them every year,
Oh,
so I would number them. So and so for
right.
23 every year, and wife
Wow.
always got number one.
Yep. That's a good call.
That was a good.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. 65 a year. That's a lot of
Oh
Santas.
yeah, yep. I did get them roughed out. Um, Heineke Wood Products. Can we do that?
Yep.
Advertise somebody. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's where I get my rough outs and my most of my really good wood. We cut wood
Yep.
from right here in Blue Earth too, but it is for some reason it's just not as nice as what they're getting up in northern Wisconsin or someplace. So
Right.
lot of real nice wood from up there, and they're 3.5 hour drive for me to get to Heineke's. So
Okay.
every once in a
Okay.
while, we just drive up there and pick up what we need.
Yeah, that's cool that you can get right down there. I keep hearing that. I haven't carved. I haven't purchased wood really much, other than for building stuff, like than for carving. But last I did, I remember the basswood being, I think, from Heineke. I think they've been around for a long time,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it is better. I think
you
it's
do more
better.
bark carving and that kind of thing, don't you?
Yeah.
Than figures and that type of a carving.
Yeah, I've kind of taken a break from it, but I'm back to it. I don't know if there's basswood behind me, but yeah, I've come back to a little bit of bark carving in the last couple of months, in the last couple of weeks, really, but just a couple little projects. But mostly, I've been working on basswood. I'm into it.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the bark is nice. The bark is really, you do get spoiled by it, but it doesn't hold the detail as well. That's what I've noticed. The biggest problem is, you can't. It flakes and have you carved in cottonwood bark?
I've done some. I've never done a lot. I might have a couple dozen faces that I've done.
Yeah.
But yeah, the only thing that I always noticed about it, and maybe it's where you get the cottonwood bark, but from down here, there's so much sand and stuff in the bark.
Yep.
It just
Mm-hmm.
terrible on the tools. I'm
It is.
sharpening, and so yeah, I just never got into doing too much of that.
Yeah. I mean, you do almost get used to just polishing, so much, like in between carvings, in between project, steps of the project, you're polishing. So yeah, that's true. There's tons of sand and dirt, which isn't really I don't think it's really the case for most woods. Maybe burl, you get some natural inclusions and you run into dirt, sand, rocks, but
Right.
yeah, so it is a bummer
The weirdest
for sure.
run into with basswood is a slug.
No, you
If
didn't.
you cut a tree from somebody's woods out there, somebody's been out there deer hunting, and you'll come across a slug, buried right into the wood. It's
That's-
actually kind of neat if you could incorporate that in the carving.
yeah, if you can just keep living there.
Yeah.
I always thought that was cool. People would say, I remember I went to a wood carving club too when I was a kid. We had a pretty good one up in Frankenmuth. And my mom would drive me to this place up, north of here. It's kind of a German town sort of vibe to it. They actually made this whole facade. The whole downtown looks like an old Bavarian village. And so it's a neat place, but they have this little Bavarian building that I'm sure they still meet in. I certainly hope they do in Frankenmuth. But all these old guys would be in there. Of course, like you say, I was the youngest one. There weren't a lot of young people in there. Really, there were basically none. And they'd just be shooting the breeze and carving on stuff. And it was a great environment. I loved being with those guys. It was like you got to hear all these crazy stories, and people would be, working on stuff, and they were so encouraging, most of the time. But there was one lady who showed up, and she always kind of had this sour look on her face, and her carvings, I don't know, they always kind of looked the same. And I remember she came up to me and she said, she had this very particular voice. She said, you need to take a class from this gentleman who's coming in this coming week. And I said, oh, really? And she could tell I wasn't that interested in it. And she's like, no, you really need to. All your faces are starting to look the same. And he'll teach you how to not do that. And I just remember thinking, this lady, of all people, you tell me that all my faces look the same? Look at your study. She's holding a study stick. It's like, whatever. But I was, then she says, and another thing, you got these bug holes, all these bug holes. You can't just leave them in there. He'll teach you how to fill those. And I just did the exact opposite of whatever this lady said. I started leaving the,
Yep.
Isn't there?
There's usually everybody in the club is the nicest, most pleasant person in the world. And then there's always
all your faces look the same. Yeah.
And they said, yeah, pretty good, right? That's what I'm going
You like
for.
it? Right. Oh, man. Yeah. Another guy, actually, we had another crabby dude. He was mostly really encouraging, and helpful, but he would get crabby in spurts. And he came up one time and was like, you see on the human face, the left side is always going to line up with the right side. You're not going to see a wrinkle on one side that you don't see on the other side. And as he's telling me this, he's trying to tell me because my carving's probably, I'm 16. My carving's probably all lopsided or whatever. I'm probably 13 or whatever it was. And he's saying this, I'm looking at him talking, and all I can hear is, because I see this significant, like big wrinkle, huge wrinkle right in the side of his face. On this side, it's the mid-face groove right here. It's not even on this side. He doesn't even have one here. And he's talking, and I'm just going, okay, yeah. Sure.
I think in reality, nobody's face is the same on both sides.
Yeah.
And that's why caricature carving appealed to me so much, is because it was hard for me to get two things to look exactly the same on one side and the other. And you can get the eyes lined up, but one's going to be bigger than the other one, or at least for me it is.
Yep.
And I love that. I mean, it's a caricature. That means
so cool.
One eye gone if you screwed it up
right
lines through there. And can you hear that from running, or did it cancel it out?
Just a little bit, but it's not a big deal.
It isn't a big deal. Okay.
Yeah. But you can definitely you can just throw a patch on him, right? He's a pirate.
It is the perfect character. You don't have to match anything. You give him a hook hand.
Yeah.
So you patch and only one leg. So best thing in the world.
That's perfect. Yeah. For that reason, I like doing the half faces too. I never really thought about it, but I could do them so quickly. And obviously it's half the work, but it's less than that because you're not spending all this time trying to get the symmetry all perfect.
That's exactly right. I'm not a deal on symmetry.
Yeah. No, I'm just, as soon as I get cocky about a carving, I just step back. And even right now, I've got this big carving up right behind the camera. And as I'm telling you this, I can see one eye's down here and the other one's up here. It's just like, I can't escape it, man.
I started carving. I've been doing some Civil War. I just got a bunch of pieces of 1.5 by 1.5 wood that I just leave sitting
Hmm.
by my carving bench. And if I can't think of
Yeah.
anything to carve, I put a face on it. And I've been doing a lot of these Civil War characters.
Oh, that is awesome.
In fact, I
That is awesome.
National Association of Wood Carvers last Saturday, and I did a demonstration on carving one of these. So this morning I decided to do one, and I'm going to give him curly hair.
That's awesome.
So I got another Civil War guy going here.
That's fantastic. Do you do wood burning on those things?
I don't do a lot, but when I'm doing this, trying to make it look like curly hair, I thought I should dip down those little triangle things and put burn it a little bit, and then when I paint it, it'll stand out a little bit better. I don't do a lot of burning, but I do a little bit around some collars and that kind of thing that I want to stand out.
Yeah. When you carve, do you find that it's something that you do to unwind, or is it something that you get kind of excited or ramped up, and then what is that relationship like to your life in carving?
When I retired, I wondered, what am I going to do? But I knew what I was going to do. I was going to come out here and carve every day. So in the morning, I drink a couple cups of coffee in the house, and at 8 o'clock, I come out to my shop and I tell my wife, I'm going to work. And I sit till noon almost every day and carve.
Wow.
So, of course, I said I was 67. So then in the afternoon, I got to take a little nap.
Right.
So I'm not carving all day.
Right. Yeah.
But I like different projects. I don't like to do a lot of the same thing over and over and repeat it. But the end of it, I got into doing these gnomes.
Yeah.
And I did Is this okay? I just got a few things sitting here.
Please, that's absolutely that's awesome. That's perfect. It's also season appropriate.
Yeah. And then I got into carving pigs.
That is so good. That pig is what a character.
And then I hope I don't get in too much trouble, but I carved another pig.
Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, you're getting in trouble for sure. Those pigs have so much character. I remember seeing that on your Instagram and that blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Where do you draw as well? Do you have an artistic side of you on the outside of that?
Back when we ran the bowling alley, and I had to sit up there every Friday night while my friends were out having fun.
Right.
Flip over bowling alley score sheets, and I would doodle. So my whole life I did a lot of doodling. But surprisingly, I don't. I can kind of draw out a pattern of something that I want to carve, but I don't get elaborate with it with pen and paper. I look at Pinterest a lot. There's a lot of ideas on Pinterest, and I'll if I somebody in a position that I like, a cartoony looking thing, I'll print it out. I'll try to come up with my own pattern from that.
Cool.
But a lot of guys do clay. I've done it, and I see the benefit of it. But for me, that takes twice as long as just getting a piece of wood and trying to carve it. So I'm not against the clay work, but I just myself I don't do it much.
Yeah, right. It's a different muscle, and it's something about when you've been carving for a long time and you go to clay, it doesn't feel. I mean, obviously, it's not the same thing, but it just doesn't feel as good. For me.
If you screw the nose up on a piece of clay, you put another piece of clay on there.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, wood, if you screw the nose up, that's firewood. You can't put that on there. Well, you could. Yeah. You could glue a chunk on, but...
Yeah. I mean, if you're painting it,
I must be a risk taker.
There you go. Yeah, we're real on the edge, you and I. Wood carvers we're pretty edgy.
Can be.
Yeah. There's a lot of there's risk in it, and there's excitement in the fact that you're kind of doing something that you can't undo. And then just the habit of subtracting, that's the way I do clay. If I do clay, which I've started to get into it a little more, I kind of let it, I form it really quickly, get all the kind of shapes in, and then I let it air dry for a little while. And then I just get my Kemper carving tools, my clay tools, and I carve it like wood. And that's really the best way I can do it.
Yeah, and everything I was doing was just with my fingers, bending it around a piece of wire to get it in whatever position I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it, like I say, it's beneficial, and a lot of guys are really good at it.
Yeah.
For me, it just took too much time.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's funny. People think that wood carving is, way more time consuming than clay, but I mean, there's a whole nother back end to clay. I mean, not only if you're working with water based, right?
Right.
You're firing it.
Yep.
There's the bisque dry, before that, you've got to air dry it. You've got to make sure that all the moisture is out of it, at least most of it, so that when it goes into the bisque, the first stage of kiln drying, it doesn't blow up in the kiln. And then you got to put it, after, and preceding all of this, I forgot to mention glazing, and then it's got to go back in for the glaze firing, and then it's another day of being in this oven. So it's not that much less work.
I never got that involved with it. I never, this clay that I use doesn't dry.
Yeah.
And I suppose it would if you baked it, but
right.
I'm done and I get my pattern from it. I peel it off there and throw it back in the bucket so that I can reuse it.
That's cool.
A little different process than the kiln drying and all that stuff. So,
yeah. And so you'll use that sometimes to kind of flesh out an idea.
Yeah, just and then when you get the thing done, you kind of lay it down on a piece of paper and trace around it to make your pattern.
Yep. Right.
Marv Kaiser set is the caricature carver that I spent a lot of time with, and that's.
Oh, you did?
I carved with Marv every Wednesday night for about 3 years.
How about that? He is one of the greats of caricature carving.
Oh, absolutely. And I picked up so much stuff that I do are techniques that I learned from Marv, and I still have never gotten into doing the big things that he can do with multiple characters all out of the same chunk. It's just unbelievable.
Is he doing that out of the same chunk?
He glues pieces of wood together, but carves it. It's all glued up, and he carves it as it sits. He doesn't add anything to them.
Oh my goodness! I didn't even know that.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, Marv. I got to meet him this past year in Iowa.
Okay, and, sure.
Man, he is an amazing artist.
Yep, he really is.
That is so neat that you worked with him, and that's really cool. What a great dude. And is he far from you then? Not too far?
He's in Faribault, Minnesota, which is an hour and 20 minutes.
Yep.
That's pretty close.
Yep. Something about that's a familiar town. I think there's something. I don't know if a friend lives up there. Maybe I know about it. Oh, Faribault. Is that where?
Chris Wheelock.
The Wheelocks are from.
Wheelocks are from.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yep.
And the wool.
Okay,
there's the Faribault Woolen Mill.
Okay. Oh, that was it. That was the one. No. Yeah, that's cool. Those guys are great and also influential in the carving world. Do you know those guys?
Oh,
you get to hang out with them. That's cool. Ivan.
Ivan.
Jive and Ivan. Oh, is Ivan still around?
Band.
Does he?
Oh yeah.
I thought you were just making something up.
Oh no, Jive and Ivan.
Yeah. something you should know about is that Ivan Willock has not necessarily you, but other people listening has a really good book on symmetry for faces. That's like, it's a really short, it's concise, it's a great reference tool. It's one of the super simple books that I think everyone that carves faces should probably have.
They used to put out a magazine. The Wheelocks were, I think it was their magazine as far as I'm concerned. Their daughter did most of the editing and all that kind of stuff, and it was called just Carving Magazine.
Huh.
And Ivan had an article in every I think they put it out 4 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
Every issue had an Ivan thing on how to lay out stuff, and it's more like your true to life looking faces and that kind of stuff, which I've already told you that wasn't really all that important to me.
Right.
But it is, it's good stuff to know. So I've got a stack of carving magazines that are from them, and then the Wood Carvers Illustrated. I've got tons of them too. Chip chats.
Yeah.
I go with the mallet. The mallet.
What's that? Oh, the mallet. I've heard of that.
That was one of the very first carving publications that, kind of came out. I don't remember how often they did it either, but probably at least 4 times a year they had a mallet magazine.
Now we're getting way back into the early days of wood carving. When wood carving was born.
That's about right. Well, it was born
no
more than that.
Yeah, no, wood carving's been done for thousands of years, but that's it's interesting to see the popularization of it. Like I've heard at least that the history of wood carving in the United States, especially caricature carving and the growth of it, came from these kind of instituted guilds that were put in, I forget which president, put in kind of, each kind of major city to support, give people who are struggling, people post-war, maybe PTSD, maybe just need something to put their minds to. The arts, crafts, carving guilds were part of that whole kind of movement. I don't remember, again, I can't remember which president. I'd be embarrassed if I named the wrong one, but, and this grew so that people would carve in these guilds, because they had the space, and this is where our carving clubs come from.
Yeah.
Apparently, is that true?
I don't remember too much.
Yeah,
that was something that you would have learned in school.
Yeah,
Bruce wasn't really good at paying attention in school, but I had a lot.
Yeah, I don't know that I don't know where I learned that from, but I think it's true. Yeah, I mean, it lines up, right? It sounds right.
Yeah. The Swedes and the Norwegians get a lot of credit for some of the first caricature carving and the flat plane carving.
Right.
Whenever I go to a flea market or to an antique store, I'm always looking for trig carvings. Very unique way of carving, and there's a lot of guys that are kind of bringing that back again now.
Yeah.
Jared Wood, he was just on International Association of Wood Carvers a few weeks back, and he does some really nice flat plane carving. So nothing that I've ever done a lot of, but I'm not opposed to trying some of it. I like trying stuff.
Yeah. I'm assuming it's not too far off from, a lot of caricature carvers, they leave a lot of the facets in the wood, knife only, right?
Right.
Is that looks like what you're doing.
Well, I do to a point, but I still, I'll make, like on a sleeve, they'll make 3 cuts.
Yeah, right.
I might make 13, so I've got a lot of, little straight lines and such, but
right.
But yeah, I don't try to do it with just a single swoop.
Yep. Understood. Speaking of cuts, what is your knife choice? Like, what kind of knives do you tend to use?
Well, of
or
course,
tools in
everybody's
general?
got a bunch of Helvies. Helvies are
Yes.
really,
Yeah.
really good knife. Um,
Yep.
I have been recently using these deep holler knives,
Oh yeah,
and
they're great.
never ever thought that I would like a 2-inch blade on a knife,
Yep.
but I'm
Mhm.
I'm really liking these. I It's a different kind of a cut. The Helvies have got more of a beveled edge, where these are
Yes.
straight. So
Yep.
it's for flat plane carving. These would be awesome.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm doing
I can see that.
a lot of carving with that 2-inch blade, which surprises me.
That is actually longer than I like. This is inch and a half,
Okay,
and I mean it's excellent. It's an excellent tool.
and they
I
stay
mean that
sharp.
thing
Yeah.
just rips. You actually reminded me I need to do another whittle with this because I haven't in a while. That
Sometimes
is
you just
cool.
got to grab a stick and just cut it up.
Do you ever do
Oh
that?
yeah.
It's kind of satisfying.
Can't think of anything to carve. You just sit there and whittle like you're Jed Clampett.
Yeah. Yeah. This is pine,
Ah,
actually. White pine. And white pine actually, I don't know, have you ever carved in white pine?
I very, very little, but there was some place that used to always sell sugar pine, and I would assume that that was white. They
Mm-hmm.
they sold it as carving wood, so it must work pretty good.
No, it definitely, I mean, it cuts pretty cleanly. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
pretty soft, this is all cracked up, but this is a piece of pine that came from someone's indoor woodworking project, some like window treatment. And my buddy has a beautiful home nearby here, and he built it himself, and he did some sort of doorway trim with this massive pine, and gave it to me, and I was carving on it. I was shocked at how decent it was.
Yeah.
So,
Cedar too. If anybody's ever putting up
yep,
your deck, that stuff carves pretty good.
yeah,
But wear gloves.
yes,
There's something in it that makes your hands itch.
yep, yeah. Cedars like that. Yep. They say walnut's not good for you to breathe in. That you should wear a mask when you cut walnut.
Okay, that's no good to carve.
Yeah, I know walnut. Yeah, walnut's pretty tough. If it's green, it's okay, but yeah, it's not fun. I wouldn't want to whittle anything out of walnut.
That's like birch. I used to. I got one up here I can show you that's not really done, but
Uh-huh.
that's kind of more like some of the stuff that you kind of do. But that's out
That's
of
cool.
birch,
Yep.
and that has to be green if you're gonna,
Yeah.
because it's hard when it starts to dry out. It really gets hard.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's kind of a pain in the butt to carve once it hardens up.
Doing a Santa Claus, man, you put that red hat on there, and it really stands out awesome in that birch.
Yeah, true. And maybe you could leave the bark on some parts. Yeah, I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
But in the base, maybe.
This one's
Yeah.
pretty rough,
Yeah, that's cool.
but I would
Oh, that's
paint
cool.
that brim up there red.
Oh, I see. You're gonna leave. Okay, so you framed the whole thing with it. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yep. Yep.
And then you can peel a chunk of this off and write a letter and send it to somebody.
No, my wife wrote me our I think you're supposed to write a letter to your loved one before you get married to him. I found out a couple of days after I got married. And she wrote mine on I keep it in the shop. I won't read it aloud. But yeah, she wrote it on a piece of birch. It's kind of cool. So
Yeah. Well, evidently, that's how they used to send letters. And boy, did I get in trouble as a Boy Scout, and we were up in the Boundary Waters canoe area, and I was going to send a letter back to my parents, and I got my knife out and I cut a chunk of a birch tree off, and boy, did the guide get on my case.
they don't like that, do they?
I don't like you doing that off of a live tree.
Yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, I have a couple of friends who've made YouTube videos carving in live trees, and yeah, people just tear into them for doing
Oh yeah, the tree huggers
it. Yeah.
do.
The tree huggers, yes, yeah. It's almost as if when they're watching it, they can hear the cries from the tree.
Yep.
It's like somebody asked me that once, like, do your carvings ever speak to you? And I said if they did, they'd be saying, "Oh God, no, stop,
If they
please."
did, I would be done with that hobby, especially. I,
Yeah, could you? Be a pretty gruesome hobby if your carvings talk back to you while you're chipping off their nose or ear.
take a little on the side.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe if you're doing a beard trim, it's all right. But no, I don't. Yeah, the funny thing, I don't know if you've experienced this, but when I was really kind of getting into the groove of carving more, I was probably 17 or 18. I was really studying faces and was trying to get better. I remember just seeing people in public. I'd get so focused on carving that I'd go to the grocery store with my mom or whoever, and I would look around at people, and I would just think like, man, I would like to just take this part right off of their cheek. It's like sticks out too much. Just thinking these really weird, horrible.
Now, I've never done that, but I do see people and go, ooh. Now that we got cell phones, we could take pictures of them. But I used to just think, man, I wish I could carve a guy that looks just like that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, do you know who Fred Cogilo is? Speaking of Minnesota,
yeah, that's another Minnesotan.
Yeah, Fred will. I hung out with him a few times at Congress, and he is always taking pictures of people. I mean, he's just sitting there while there's a speech going on, and he's just zooming in on this guy next to him who's unaware of it. Just carving people. It's funny.
Harley Schmidt. Do you know that name?
Yeah,
Harley's from Blue Earth. He was he lived here and ran a monument business up until he sold it to one of his kids and moved to Missouri. But he used to tell me that Cogilo, he says, if you ever go to a show that he's got something at, he said he likes to kind of hide back where he doesn't think anybody sees him and listen to what you say about his carving.
Really?
So I've never met Fred, so he never did that to me, but
I could see it. I mean, he's a peculiar dude. He's a really nice guy when you get to know him, but he has an interesting disposition. He's witty, he's funny, he's a peculiar guy. He's a fun guy to know, that's for sure.
Yeah, but, that's true.
I could see him being like that. Just sit there and listen. I feel like I've done that. I mean, who hasn't, right? If you're at a show, because at art shows you can, usually people sit behind their little booth, right? You got your 10 by 10 tent, you got your display, these big panels up, and most people have a chair behind these panels, but the back of the tent, and that's where all the artists kind of hang out and talk, because these tents are back to one another oftentimes. So your neighbor's back behind his tent in this little valley of the tents where you're all kind of sitting and complaining about the weather.
Yeah.
And so I remember just sitting there and listening to people, little kids especially, they just say what they thought, oh, mommy, these are scary. Who would put these in their house? Stuff like that.
Now, here's something I used to do you go into a mall and do a show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're sitting there all day long, and this, maybe one out of every 15 people that go by might actually stop and look at your stuff a little bit. And if anybody would ever stop and say, well, how much do you get for one of these? And I go, well, I sell those for $45 or whatever it is. I go, what? For a piece of wood? So I always kept a knife and a chunk of wood. And I said, well, here you go. Sit down and make me one. Oh, well, no, I did that, but.
Yeah, people do. It's true. That is a funny reaction that people have. They cannot contain, like, their surprise that you would be willing to charge. One lady, I had her show up to my booth and she was offended. when I told her how much I charge. She was upset. She was saying something like, "Oh no, no, I know a guy who's charging $30 when you said 300, 30." And she was just so upset. And I just remember just saying to myself, just like, what is the deal with this? Is she like, what's the point of it? Is she trying to get a deal? Does she think I think she just felt like I was trying to rip her off.
Well, here's what we used to do in the furniture store, because people would come in all the time and they'd say, well, you get $700 for that sofa. Down the street, they've got the same one for $300. And we'll look at them and say, they know what their stuff is worth.
Yeah.
So it might look, but it ain't the same.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. People, I think what I said to that lady is, then you should be buying his carvings, because that's a great deal for $30. That's a good deal. Yeah. I would find that guy. Actually, give me his number, I said to her, because I'd love to find out where he's
got to sell 30 of those to make his money. Because I'm going to make selling you one of these.
Yeah. Next year, lady, come back and I'll have all of his carvings. I'll be distributing them. No, people do get upset occasionally when they find out. We have a family member who says that whenever he asks about something in the family, because my family we make stuff. My dad makes guitars, and whenever he or she asks about this thing that we make at a family gathering or whatever, his reaction is always, "Oh man, are you serious? That much?" We said, "Thanks, I'm glad you like it."
If you want one, I'll give it to you. But I mean, that's what I sell them for.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, but it is kind of weird trying to figure out what to price stuff. Do you ever sell your carvings?
I do. Remember all those Santa Clauses I told you I carved?
Yeah. Yep. Right. You said that you were selling them.
I don't think I ever got more than about $45 for one of those.
Yep.
And now if people ask me how much do you get for a Santa Claus, I start at 80.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm just keeping them or giving them away, because if you don't get that much for them, it isn't. It isn't that important to me to sell a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But also, I'm if somebody wants something, that's cheap.
Yeah.
So, but most
it is
little, 6-7 inch things. They're not massive carvings. So. So they don't take.
That's a low price. It's a really low price. What's that?
They don't take up so much space if I want to just keep them.
Right. Yeah, true. They're small. And are you talking about the ones like the Birch ones that you showed me, the Santas, or were they like, what kind of a style is that?
Just, here, can I leave and go grab something?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's grabbing us a Santa. Because that's an affordable Santa.
All right. So here's just
Oh, that's awesome.
Santa Claus holding a coffee mug.
That's awesome.
And I get rough outs made of some of these things, so I've got some rough outs for sale. But here's one I did this reaching for the star.
That is awesome. Reaching for the star.
But
that is so good.
Quite a bit taller. This one gets up around a foot tall.
Now that wouldn't be $80.
Yeah, maybe.
No way. That's $180 right there. I mean, or more. That thing is awesome. Yeah. No, I mean, or more. Honestly, that is just so cool. That's great. Yeah, that's to me, it's like there's this whole other side of carving when you're trying to do it for a living. It's nice. It's a nice position to be in to not have to worry about it that way.
Right. Yeah.
But when you're doing it for a living, you do have to think about, what is this worth? Constantly. You're constantly thinking about that. And
well, you can't figure out how many hours you got into something, because that's just you'll get $3 an hour,
Yeah.
if you're not.
Yeah. No, that's it's so it's it's a bad business model when people ask you, how much time do you have in this, and then your response is like, to keep my sanity, I can't know, I can't.
Well, yeah.
I'd like to be happy. I'd like to be happy.
But you don't dare tell them, I've carved 70 of these gnomes. I can do one in an hour and 20 minutes. Really? And you're going to charge much for it?
Not much. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and there are times. Yeah, exactly. You do figure out how to do something quickly, and you can crank them out, and then it works in your favor. I've definitely been there, but yeah. But then think about all the time it took you to get those skills. Those are the hours that they're paying for too.
Repairman tell me one time. He said, "You never fix anything in front of anybody. You always take it into the back room to fix it, because they won't want to pay you if all you had to do was wiggle something that was loose." But you knew where to wiggle, so they were doing it.
It's true. It's true. My dad is that way, where I grew up with a mechanic father, so he was always fixing things around the house. He wasn't about to take the vacuum to the store, right? He was gonna fix it himself, and so he would just show up to stuff that was broken that we'd be playing with, and it would just fix itself. I mean, we thought my dad was magic as a kid, because he would just he'd grab the thing and he'd hold it, and then he'd just tweak something.
Sure.
Before you know it, it's working again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see if that was your living, you want to keep that under wraps.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Bruce, is there anything else that we missed that you want to talk about before we
this
go?
is just like sitting down and talking to somebody. This is I can't think that I probably missed all kinds of stuff that I should have said, but.
What's your YouTube channel? What is your YouTube channel called?
It's just I think if you just get on YouTube and type in Bruce Ankeny,
it'll come up.
It comes up, yeah.
Very good. And then can you spell your name for us?
My Instagram is at Ankeny Bruce.
Yep. And your last name, can you spell that?
Sure. Ankeny.
Yep. There you go. Well, you heard it here. Check him out. Order a carving, one of his beautiful pieces.
Oh, there you go.
If he's willing to sell it.
I don't like doing commission work, so don't ask me to carve one that looks like Uncle Joe.
Yeah, there you go. Who does like that? Who does like that's it's so funny when you look at like the writings of the greats, like Michelangelo, and they always talk about how they made a living from commissions, but they did not enjoy themselves.
Oh, they couldn't.
All.
I hate doing commissions.
Yeah.
We didn't get to pick on Linker very much, though. We should have been trashing Doug Linker a little more.
Yeah, you're right. I always forget to do that. He smells terrible in person. Wow.
Really?
No, he didn't. I had to come up with something.
There's stuff growing in that beard. I know there's.
Oh yeah.
Beard.
Yeah. He keeps stuff in there to eat. He'll keep a sandwich in there. He doesn't even have a lunchbox. He's come down here before with berries and grapes and stuff coming out.
He's from Canada.
At least he's healthy. Yeah, I mean, he's got the grapes in there. But all right, Bruce.
Even with us someday.
He'll
get even with us someday.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Anyway, I appreciate you coming on, brother. This was a lot of fun, and thanks for sharing your work, and keep up the incredible work.
Oh,
just
thank
mind-blowingly good.
Thank you. My crazy brain just keeps on going.
That is awesome. All right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Alec.